Good afternoon. A group of CEOs from 115 South African companies have now signed a pledge that they say is a promise to help build and develop the country. The CEOs say they're determined to try and reverse our current trajectory and to improve the lives that people lead. Martin Kingston is the chair of the Steering Committee of Business for SA. Martin, good afternoon to you. What's the plan behind this pledge?
Well, Stephen, the plan behind this pledge is to build on the work that Business for South Africa is already doing with government. We announced about 6 weeks ago 3 work streams, one focusing on energy, the second on transport and logistics, and the third on crime and corruption. We have joint teams trying to arrest the problems that are there because they're obviously very fundamental constraints. And those teams are already resourced by business, but actually what we've seen here are over 100 CEOs stepping up to the plate, leading their companies effectively into the fray, into this process, making sure that their skills, their resources are available, demonstrating on the one hand that we've got very serious headwinds and challenges that we need to deal with. And on the other hand, making it clear that they're going to personally get involved and engage. They're going to make, as I said, their skills and expertise available to try and deal with these very fundamental constraints.
So what actions then, I mean, these are important words that they've signed up to. What actions can we actually expect from CEOs? Is it about how they lead their companies? Is it about actually not just leading companies, but getting involved almost in functions that government should provide?
Well, it is absolutely the need to get involved in the areas that I've talked about. The 3 work streams concerned are already led by CEOs. In the case of the energy work stream by Fleetwood Grobler of Sasol, Nolita Fakude of Anglo American, A.D. Enthoven of Yellowwoods. In the case of the logistics work stream, Mpumi Zikalala of Kumba, Andrew Kirby of Toyota, Nkolisi, who used to be responsible for the Exara work, and in the case of crime and corruption, by Yanni Durand of Remgro and by Neil Froneman of Sibanye-Stillwater. Each of those have got very large companies that they're running, but they recognize that if we're going to be able to address the challenges that are confronting the country, they need to be able to lead by example. Each of these work streams have got senior executives leading them, populated by subject matter experts from business, working alongside, not in substitution for government. It is, of course, true that these are all the responsibility in the domain of the state, but the President is the first to admit that there are capacity constraints, and I think we all acknowledge that if we don't deal with load shedding, if we don't deal with the rising levels of crime and corruption, and if we don't ensure that we've got an efficient, predictable and competitive transportation network, then as a country we're not going to be able to create the economic growth necessary to generate the jobs that are absolutely essential.
Businesses are also battling to survive, Martin. I mean, you know that better than I do. Do they actually have the money and resources to do all of this, and the time?
Well, I have to say it's not so much about money, it's more about resources, Stephen. I think that they do have the expertise. In the case of the energy work stream, I have to say that we established the Resource Mobilization Fund at the request of government. We raised 100 million rand, both from business and from philanthropic organizations. We've used that money to source expertise, which we've donated to the National Energy Crisis Committee work stream within the presidency. 100 million rand to provide the right expertise so that we can address load shedding is actually a fraction of the pain that's being suffered both physically and indeed economically, not just by companies, but by everybody in the country. And therefore it's money that is well spent, provided that we can account for it transparently and regularly, and also that we preserve the relationship between government and business, by which I mean that we respect the integrity and the independence of the state at all times.
I mean, business leaders, you're in a difficult position, right? You need electricity, you need water, you need the infrastructure run by Transnet. And you can help to fix those things. But in the end, isn't it really about making government work? And, you have the best will in the world, I accept that. But it's really hard for you to make government work. I mean, the only thing that can make government work is government.
Yeah, you're 100% correct, and we respect and accept that. But in the interim, we need to make sure that we bring all of our resources to bear collectively. It's no different to the work that we did during the pandemic in COVID or the vaccination rollout program, where in the final analysis it's the responsibility of the state. But as a society, we need to put our shoulders to the wheel. Of course, we need to hold government to account, just as we need to hold ourselves as business to account if we don't perform. But actually, I think that the crisis is of such magnitude now, Stephen, that it really is all hands to the pump. And if we can make sure that we can co-opt, and indeed we don't need to co-opt, they volunteered CEOs of many businesses, not just the 115 we announced today. There are more signing up every single hour, then all the better.
Martin Kingston, thank you. Chair of the Steering Committee of Business for South Africa. Do appreciate the time.